Hello, 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 Cryptonauts. Welcome back to another episode of Cryptocurrency Chat, episode 482. I am your host, Blockchain John, with my co-host, Jake Jabrelli, ready to give you some crypto news of the day. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Or do you want to plug in the coin tree first?
No, I always start on the coin tree, but
Let's do
maybe
it
I
then.
just want to
Let's do
make
it.
just no. It's I started on it. I don't need to talk about it. In fact, I've said that in the past articles. I was like, everybody knows coin tree at this point. It's really simple to get to. It's just cointr.ee/c3media. But we do have. I'll talk about the other stuff at the end of the
Great. All right, let's start off
episode.
with the first news. You want to take that?
Yeah. So this is kind of neat. Steve Aoki and Seth Green will let
Mm-hmm.
the NFT holders shape their animated short. And we were talking about this pre-show. I was really kind of excited about the idea of it in general. That uh, NFT holders like the Doodles NFT that I was talking about in a previous episode allow people to modify their NFT. The creative process that Green and Aoki are doing here with this stop motion short that they're creating
Mm-hmm.
is going to be, basically, what's the word I was looking for? Edited or creatively modified by people who actually hold the NFTs of the entire project. So it's kind of like a DAO in a sense, although it's not explicitly a DAO.
It
Um,
almost sounds like that, right? It sounds like people are paying for the actual film to be produced in a sense, right?
right. So the one thing I was going to make a point, and we did comment about this before the show, was that typically creators like this, like Green and Aoki, and particularly Green, since he's been doing Robot Chicken for years, will pay a whole bunch of writers to collaborate the idea of the show, and then they produce the storyboarding and the content, and then go and do the animation. And obviously, they're very much into because Robot Chicken is all claymation,
Mm-hmm.
stop motion. So it's of course this next project is also going to be the same way, but the input will come obviously from the holders of the coin and the NFTs that are involved in this, and that's for the first, not probably for the first time, but for the first obvious time or the first most prevalent in this case is somebody the NFT holders having purchased or received the NFTs, then them effectively paying to participate in this stop motion short is kind of a reversal of roles, and that's what I thought was interesting. So not it is participation, which is key. It's absolutely key because people love to participate in things that they like Green and Aoki's content. But the thing that's kind of neat to me about it is just the fact that instead of them paying the creators are paying them all indirectly to help
Yeah.
make this content. So to me, it's
And
go ahead.
Andreessen Horowitz was the one that kind of led that whole funding round to make it a smooth transition to try to get that funding of $6.9 million, which is a nice little chunk of money to get this project going.
Yeah, so Shibuya raised $6.9 million in December, in a round co-led by Andreessen Horowitz and Variant Fund, with notable angel investors like NBA's Kevin Durant and Paris
Mm-hmm.
Hilton, who's not a NBA player but a entertainer. Uh, sorry to make it sound weird, but yeah, the project it depends on what the total cost of, but it's going to be obviously a little bit more restrictive because it's not going to be a huge, like
Well,
$10 million is a
you
lot of
know,
money. So
Seth Green has always been a penny pincher. He's always looking for the most innovative way to do it at the most inexpensive cost. So,
yeah,
knowing that he's on board, they'll figure it out. It's not a big deal,
right.
you know. They can do it
He
with that
knows how to make
amount.
the right decisions that lead to the right end
Yeah,
goals
they're
in this.
they're definitely both experienced enough to know how to use money to
Yeah.
make this project a reality. So that's good for anybody that invested into it. Let's see. It says right here at the bottom, September 2022, the collaborators released a series of NFTs profile, the PFPs, based on the project. And let's see. They initially offered 7,777 at a price of zero point 0.1 ETH for about $170 at the time. And now, but then cut the supply to 4,000 NFTs at 0.00 or 5 ETH, 85 piece.
Yeah, basically half
Yeah.
of what the previous price was. But still, it is user. I mean, people, like I said before, people love to participate. I mean, there's people who obviously love Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
So they're going to be very much involved in this. And Seth Green has got lots of other projects he's been doing. But at the same time, you know, it's one thing to meet your not your heroes, but your famous people that you really like. It's another thing to actually be directly involved in the project that they're doing, not just
Yes.
watching the thing on
That's
on TV
what's
or on
cool
the
about
internet.
it, man.
So yeah, this is why this is a fascinating concept
Yeah.
that hopefully is done. Now, the only caveat I will make in this is remember when they what was it the remember Bodie McBoatface? You don't
No.
remember that? So there's a contest to name a boat, and they did, and the vote basically came like 90% of the people voted for Bodie McBoatface.
Mm-mm.
You may end up with a Bodie McBoatface result when you're asking fans to contribute. So you got to be
Okay, I
careful
get it.
that your
I get it.
content
Yep.
may not be as great as you're really hoping. And if you're it's Seth Green, and Seth Green is brilliant. He's obviously done some amazing stuff, but he is depending on people who may not have a whole lot of artistry, creative talent, and or writing experience. So you're
All right.
it'll be interesting to see how it works out. We will definitely update people on this. Continuing on with Celsius problems.
Yes, Celsius problem dated back to at least 2020 examiner's report. Yes, it's finally out. Everybody's been waiting for this for so long. The examiner's report came out from oh, is it on here? Um who who did it? It was it doesn't even say. It was Kirkland and Ellis is the one that did the examiner's report. I read about I don't know about 50 pages worth of it so far. I'm gonna pick it up and continue reading it. There's about 700 pages in that examiner's report, and there's a lot of really detailed information in there about what Mr. Mashinsky, which is pretty much repeated over and over again. Even though there's other individuals in the report, their names are not actually identified in the report, which is kind of questionable. I think the reason they excluded that was to not. I think what people were saying on Twitter Spaces was they don't want to publicly identify those individuals because there's obviously litigation process going through, so they didn't want those other people's being harassed or whatever. But it does come back to basically Mr. Mashinsky was a big scammer and he pretty much rugged everybody. He scammed everybody from the start, and it looks like, from what I read, what was really disappointing was the board members. Um, at one point or another throughout the years, basically did not want to do what Alex wanted to do, which was pretty much tell lies, because the board had a fiduciary to its customers and clients not to lie and tell them straight up, hey, this sell token is bankrupt. There's nothing to it. And Alex is like, nope, we're going to do this instead. And of course, the board had to pretty much cover the tracks of all this scam that was going on. And yeah, it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. Um, yeah,
This feels
so
like
that's.
this really feels like Billy McFarland from Fire Festival.
Mm,
That Mashinsky was basically just this wheeling and dealing, really glad handy kind of just like, well, who cares about the truth? Let's just lie and you got to get people on board, right? You gotta talk them up. You gotta make them feel good.
yeah, that's what
Make it as big a
happened.
deal as you can have it. And you and I both swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. We didn't look into the background. We
Everybody
just
did.
we
Everybody
just
did.
said,
That's
oh
what
yeah, that must
happened.
be true. It must be true. It must be real.
3 billion was it? No, not 3 billion. 3 billion. $3 billion. Yeah,
I
$3 billion worth.
I grew skeptical when they moved from the UK to the US. I was like, why? Why did they do that? I mean, why? What difference does it make? Why do they have to do that? And it was the only time I actually felt skeptical of the company. I was like, maybe I
I
shouldn't do this.
I grew skeptical when they try to do a double seed fundraising, series fundraising, when they said strictly that I think Alex said they were only allowed to do one funding round,
And then he did
and
it
then
again. Yep.
all of a sudden they just They didn't even say why they were doing it again. They just said that
Yep, they're just
there you
doing it
go.
again.
We're actually gonna do it for our community. We're gonna open it again. It's like, well, there's actually legal issues with that. If you're only allowed to do one, and that's when my red flag came. I was like, well, why are you doing it again? Like that doesn't make
Yep,
sense.
yep, yeah.
Okay.
So it is.
But I did not listen, and we all kept our coins in there, and
Yep.
now it's all locked up. It's being investigated, and pretty much what
Right.
happened
But there
was,
is good news, sort of, coming later,
yeah,
though. So
yeah. It's a little bit good news. It's hope. That's
it's
what I'm looking
hope.
for.
Yes, it's hope. That is the best way of putting it. So
Let's
yeah.
move on over to the next one.
In Dungeons and Dragons, reverses course on their NFT ban amid a backlash after abandoning the proposed license changes. The Dungeons and Dragons campaign against Web3 has apparently reached its end. So, what's the deal here? Now, the company is abandoning plans to update the open game license entirely, and will instead place D&D content included via its system reference document under a Creative Commons license that is, quote, open and irrevocable. So what does that exactly mean? Well, it basically means they can't go back on their licensing. So that once you open it up, you can't go backwards on it. You have to stay open, because at the point that something like that happens and people start using the license freely as they would be in a Creative Commons situation, you don't know where that stuff's going to go. And if that person has used it in an open sense, then it's kind of unfair to that person to just lock it down again. So once you open it up, you can't go backwards.
Okay.
That's one of the factors in this, in what Wizards of the Coast is basically doing now. But in general, I mean, the whole concept of them basically blocking NFTs altogether was kind of just like, come on, you guys can't do that. What was the other comment I was going to make here? After seeing initial result, sorry, go ahead.
I don't understand. So they're not allowing people to make NFTs with them, but it is open to be used, right?
Right.
So their content, their artwork, their basically Dungeons and Dragons Echoverse is usable. People can use it
Mm-hmm.
publicly with no issues. They just are restricted from making NFTs out of them, basically profiting off of them using NFTs, but can profit off of them using YouTube, TikToks, making films out of them. No,
Right.
not NFTs.
Content. So I mean,
Okay.
it's how is it? I can't remember what the name of it is when it comes to as long as your content changes form, then it's no longer in the ban. I guess is the best way of putting it. So it's like it's the same thing we deal with when we're trying to make our own content, right? We're constantly using what could have otherwise been copyrighted images, but as long as you're transforming what you're making into something else, it's transformative work. Then it's fair use is the term I think they use. So one of the comments further down in the impending ban on NFTs had caused Web3 gaming company Gipner to pivot away from tapping the open game license for its upcoming project, The Glimmering. But further down it says it's possible Gipner could revert back to using the open game license, Rodney McFarlane explained, or use the D&D content that will be included in the Creative Commons document. So he also said that Gipner is looking at game licenses under development by other companies, and so yeah, the point was that they can't revert. They can't revert their licensing because it's
So it's not. They're not. It's not definitive yet. They're still
no
working on things, and it's still a possibility that might be of something that they'll consider.
right.
But why? What's the big issue mainly with this?
All right.
Obviously,
So even though the backlash didn't really come as a result of the NFT factor,
Mhm.
Web3 creators have apparently emerged from the licensing drama with the tabletop gaming community by storm. So it's the backlash really came as a result of, if you're going to try to put this backwards from where it was, it's going to mean that all the work that we did, that all the people like Gipner were doing, is for naught. Like when we put up, you guys said we could do this, and then you reverted, and that's not going to work because you waited too long. we put all this effort in, and now you're saying we can't do it, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. Don't just turn off. Once you set it one way, you can't go backwards. Like I said, that within the law, if you open the content, you can't go back to a more restrictive license, because at that point, people have already put work. Not just people who put work in, but legally. It's like once the stuff is out there, it's out there, and you can't just take it back because you've already said it's out there.
I think having NFTs on DnD would be amazing. Period.
Yes.
Period. How many periods after that? Period.
Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation.
Yes. And bold underscore.
Right. Italics. Anyways. Yes, it would be amazing because, as we said pre-show, being able to transfer tokens between games and out of games. It's like if you invest a lot of time and or money into this thing that was previously not functional at a high level, and then you can't do anything with it, then it's kind of unfair. And you're like, well, I mean, I guess if you knew this going in, but as times change, fortunately now NFTs exist, and you can now exit out of the market. So
yeah, you start off with a base layer NPC,
mm-hmm.
and then over the course of you playing DnD, you upgrade him or her or it, and you buy all these different gears and gadgets and whoop-de-woos.
Well, you're building something. It's like building a house or building an art project of sorts, and then after a while, you have a lot of things added to it, and it's kind of the way with Axie Infinity, right? You spend a lot of time and money doing this thing, and
Ethermon.
Or Ethermon, right? And then at some point, maybe you get lucky and win a lot of games or something, or maybe it's not lucky; it's just skill, and that has value, right? If you do make a big enough project, that thing would have value, and people will recognize that, especially in the market, open market.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Next news. What do we got?
So yes, this is the other Celsius commentary. Who is eligible to get their crypto back from bankrupt Celsius?
Question mark?
Yes. In particular, some people are. Some people will get their coin back, yes. The custody program, people who, that is, put their money into their crypto into custody programs or the withhold accounts will get 94% of their money back. I'm guessing that other 6% is fees. Those funds were only ever in the custody program or removed the custody program from the interest earning or borrowed accounts in the 90 days prior to the petition. Their value was less than $7,575. So really it comes down to is where did you keep the coin when you had the coin on there? And
because there was two different wallets per se.
Right.
There was the earn wallet.
Yeah,
and
the custody wallet.
Right. And the difference between that against the terms of use, according to Celsius, is that the earned wallet is technically any coin stored on there is it belongs to Celsius. But if it was in the custody wallet, then it actually belonged to the user, even though it was being stored on Celsius.
Yep.
So when they went bankrupt, the question is.
The custody program meant that they were that still belonged to the customer, and according to the terms of service, wasn't Celsius's money.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you were in an interest earned account, then that was their saying, and even according to the judge, it was their money, even though. And that's the reason wait. Go ahead. Sorry.
But there is a cap on how much you can withdraw.
All right.
You got to meet it. There's a maximum threshold. So if you had anything under $7,500, you're gonna get that 94% back. If you had anything over that, for example, you had $8,000 in there, then you're not allowed to take any of it out. You're gonna have to still wait.
Yeah.
You won't even be able to take out $7,500. You have to wait.
Right. So, but this is the reason that the DA was suing Mashinsky, was because he's saying, yes, technically the terms of service were explicit that any money given by the customers to the company in the interest earned accounts is technically the money that is the company's money, but you can't advertise that you're going to pay people interest and give them their money back. The expectation is that the money still belongs to the people. Nobody willingly gave the money over saying, yes, we agree to these terms. Because no company has ever done that before. No company's like, oh, well, this is now my money. No, it's not. Nobody would give you money for that reason. There's always an agreement that they can get their funds back either through investment, through like the company making a lot of money and going, public or something, or the interest would be, of course, returned with the original primary, I guess, loan technically. But
even going back to the examiner's report, there was a couple of sections there that that Alex Mashinsky does specifically. Part of the interviews and investigations against Mashinsky was that on multiple occasions he did tell his viewers or listeners or followers that he was promising everybody their funds back,
right,
even if they filed for Chapter 11 on
right,
multiple occasions. But later on, that was either erased, removed, and re-uploaded, just to protect the identity or to protect that particular comment. But obviously, as time went on, it was revealed that during the live streams he did say that on many occasions, and so people believed him. And because I was one of those people part of the live stream, and there was thousands and thousands of people every single Friday that was listening to these live streams with Alex, and he would always say that, even if we went bankrupt, you guys are promised to have your funds 100% back. And
so
now
that's just the constant lies. I mean, he was convincing, I will say.
Then on top of that, I guess what was a slap in the face or a black eye was when the judge ruled that the funds were 100% theirs.
Right, according to the terms of service. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reason the DA sued him, was because he's like, well, at this point, if that's true, then you were lying, and at this point, then you do need to be sued because that is illegal.
Which is interesting because even though it's technically their coins, they still have I want to say fiduciary to pay back their customers.
Right. If you promised what they promised throughout the entirety of the company, regardless of the terms of service, like I said before, nobody gives money willingly to another company with no expectation of return. Nobody does that. Mm-hmm. Even people who give millions of dollars to a company expect a return. They expect you to give their money back plus interest. So nobody's just like, oh, I'm altruistic. Here you go, Alex. We obviously don't need our millions or tens or hundreds of dollars, whatever. We don't need it. You can just have it. I expect nothing in return. Nobody's doing that. The company itself was built up not with that intention. Mm-hmm. Even if Alex otherwise thought it was. If Alex thought, oh, well, this is my personal piggy bank and people are just giving me money. That doesn't matter what you believe. You touted the concept of the interest returned plus original investment. So if that's what it is, then to say that the money technically belongs to you is a fallacy. And that's the reason the DA is suing him. So
there's a possibility that, I guess the last little piece down here at the end, it does look like there's a possibility that they can get up to 100% of it back. Because initially it's 94%, but it looks like in the future date they might be able to get 6% back.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm guessing that they'll probably conclude that it's just a transaction fee.
Mm-hmm.
It only makes sense. 94% is actually pretty good considering that you're surviving Chapter 11. You're getting something back. I would be happy with that, man. Yeah. All right, moving on. Binance and MasterCard launches Bitcoin rewards card in Brazil. Yes, finally. They Binance is up there, man. They're all around the world. But, you know what's interesting about this? Well, first of all, let's go with the good stuff. The good stuff is that, hey, Brazil has a crypto card, basically, that they get to use. And not only use, but they actually get to earn 8% crypto back.
Cash back on 8% of purchases. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, first, like I was saying off air, I'm over here paying transaction fees every time I swipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not literally, but yeah. But there's a fee there. Either let's see, either the merchant pays or the customer pays. It's nice to know that I get to earn 8% back if I'm using this card in Brazil. That's amazing. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, and if anybody doesn't already know, Brazil is the same, almost the exact same physical landmass as the United States. You might think of it as just down there in South America. It is. It's a big country. There's not quite as many people as the United States. It's still a big country. So to see something a country this big, that this many people have this opportunity, is amazing.
The question is how advances Brazil to utilize a swipe feature, swipe card, small businesses and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I
Well,
don't
it's
know if
not
it's
it's not as bad as El Salvador. We'll put it that way. But there are plenty, and there are plenty of people who are probably still using cash. But
hmm
yeah, there are plenty of places. I mean, I'm going to plug my favorite game, Upland, which I've talked about before. Um, Upland has what, 3 cities in Brazil now? No, 2 cities in Brazil and one in Argentina. So there's, I'm guessing it's because there are people who help build Upland who are, Brazilian, but or South American. But it's just great to see that there's, and now that I've purchased property digitally in Brazil, I've learned a lot more about Brazil itself. And so, yeah, there are plenty of spaces in Brazil that are a little underdeveloped, but there's plenty of places there that, so they have lots and lots of foreigners come to the country all the time to visit, and those people don't have the local currency. They just use whatever they have and exchange it. But they use the cards. They use things like MasterCard and Visa and whatever's popular. I think Barcroft in, is it Barcroft? What's the name of the big bank
yeah,
in the UK?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's Bar-
Barclay. Yeah, the Barclay card. In From the UK, if people in other countries are coming down and using their own credit processing cards, why not use crypto? So, crypto fortunately is universal in its adaptation. So,
the
yeah,
last little paragraph here at the bottom. Is that the last one? No, actually, it's not the last one. It's pretty close to the bottom. It says crypto Binance in Brazil. Last year, Brazil's Congress passed a bill that gives cryptocurrency payments legal status in the country, though without making the assets legal tender.
right.
I'm not sure what that
So you
means,
can
but
actually
okay.
buy and trade with cryptocurrency, even if it's the tender itself isn't like El Salvador. Like Bitcoin is not an official
Okay,
currency in Brazil,
got
but
it.
you can still use Bitcoin or other coins.
So here's what's interesting is that it looks like this is being backed by Binance, correct?
Yeah, Binance and
Now,
Mastercard.
yeah, here's the thing: we can't forget, and it's kind of been swept under the rug and forgotten. But Binance is still being eyed by a lot of regulators around the globe for
Yep.
not being properly regulated in these nations around, including the United States, not being properly regulated. There's still a lot of issues going on with Binance. They don't, they haven't properly established themselves, and so if Binance continues to grow, which is amazing, to know that Binance is doing their best to try to help out economies around the globe, but helping the people is one thing, but at the same time, they might get rugged by the governments all around the world, wherever they're trying to station themselves at, or try to help communities.
That's a good
That's where
point.
I'm kind of concerned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a stack of cards, or yeah, a stack of
House
cards.
of Cards, right? Right.
House of cards. Yeah, there you go. Just a little bit nervous about that. I wish Binance would just take a step back and realize maybe regulation is good and better
I
for
think
the world.
I think they
But
just don't know where it's going yet, and that's the reason they're worried. They don't want to be stuck in regulation and not be able to continue making business action. So, all
understood.
right. So, last article before we get out of here is LBRY token soars 67% as hodlers turn hopeful that secondary sales won't be barred. And let me just make this because it's a relatively quick article that we said. The exact quote is, according to Deaton, the judge, in New Hampshire overseeing the injunction told him, I'm going to make it clear that my order does not apply to secondary market sales. So yes, this is the reason that everybody was super excited about LBRY's token, is that secondary markets, this ruling does not apply to. And that's the reason the price went up so much. So,
That's what's interesting is that this actually this it's not only going to apply to library. This is going to be a pretty much across the board amongst all cryptos, because this is going to be when there's future litigations with other cryptos and ICOs in the future, and secondary sales. This case will be brought up, even though
yes, it'll be
this
referenced.
is yeah, this can be referenced. This is not like a nothing case. This is a historical moment here
Yep.
that people. I don't know why this is not pumping more on crypto news, but yeah, 67% soar. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It should be a
Yeah.
lot more than that.
Yeah.
Congratulations, library. You guys held
Yes.
strong,
Yes.
and it's nice that there was a little hope at the end. So that's great, man.
Yep.
That means I guess we get to keep Odyssey then, right?
Yeah. So yes, we can continue to promote. I mean, yes, I'm not saying Odyssey hasn't gone away yet. They're still there. You can still go to odyssey.com. It's still good. In fact, if you go to library.tv, it'll still redirect to odyssey.com. So yeah, you can still watch content there. Our content is still being uploaded there. We were a little worried for a while that it was going to go away, but apparently it's not going to now. So although Odyssey itself might still be bankrupt, it's just it's great to see
Yeah.
that this ruling, at least now, will be referenced in future court cases, as you say, is not effectively killing completely the entirety of this purpose. Now, yes, at some point, a lot of these coins will be registered as securities, and there will be some rules put into place to say that if you make a coin, it has to go through some test to see if it is a security or if it isn't. And if it makes it out of that, then you're free and clear. So
Really quick, what considers a secondary market?
say again.
What considers a secondary market? So from my understanding, you get approved investors, or what's the term? Not approved.
Accredited.
Accredited investors to buy the ICO. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's all legal. There's nothing
Yep.
wrong with that. They
Yep.
can do it that way.
Yep.
And then the investors are then what sells it in the open market.
Right.
And then us as regular old folks out there, little
Non-accredited.
fish.
Right.
Yeah, we buy it from the secondary market,
Yep.
and then there's no issues with that.
And there's
Correct?
no issues with that. Exactly.
That's quite interesting. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, actually.
Now remember, there's still multiple
That's
ways of doing a startup. You don't just have to do accredited. There are other ways you can do private sales. Private sales are what's called private equity. If you do private equity, you don't need to be accredited. It's just that if you make it public, you have to be accredited. So there are, I think, since I've been doing this for so long, there are 4 ways of starting a business, or 4 capital building ways. And there's just the one that has been unfortunately broken with respect to Celsius in particular, was that they were allowing non-accredited investors to invest in a public offering. And that was where they got in trouble, and that's the reason they're bankrupt. So you just need to follow the rules of how money actually works. And that even though crypto is a thing, and crypto is much more free than fiat is, freely movable, and has actually a way more functionality than fiat does, you still need to follow the rules of the country that you're operating in. So otherwise, you get money laundering problems, and that was one of the big problems with crypto in general, was there was a lot of money laundering going on. So don't be bad.
Gonna wrap.
So let me just finish this off with thank you all for checking out our content. And if you appreciate it and appreciate us, you want to show your appreciation, you can check out our coin tree and see where you can donate in coin. We really appreciate those donations. We have had some. If you want to donate even assets through Raven or Ever, we do accept it. They are asset-aware wallets, so we will see your assets when you do, and we appreciate those who have donated before. You can check out our new website, which is kind of a placeholder for now until we get our Web3 up and running, which is nearly done. You can come to Discord, our YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Spotify, Anchor, etc. But yes, the one thing I want to plug before we go here, and we're going to be going in just a minute, is that we have a guest interview with James of Avian tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time, so it'll be 10 Eastern. If you guys want to catch us live, of course, the show will always be posted to YouTube later. And then this whole month, we have 3 more interviews, guest interviews coming on the show, and you can check out our calendar for that information. So please do. And with that, you have anything else to say, John? Let's just wrap this up.
Man.
All right, then, stack sats and hodl.
Auto.
Adios.
Adios.